would you argue, I mean, inevitably, is it a business arrangement?
I'm telling you, marriage is 100% a business arrangement. And that might get a bunch of flack, but marriage is 100% a business arrangement. And if you don't think of it that way, you're fucked. Because I tell you, you go into that not thinking of it that way, and if it ends in divorce...
how can you not look at it that way, especially for, and I didn't do this prior to getting married, I never signed
I never created no prenup. It's the biggest financial decision you will ever make.
Welcome to the 8th Gear Podcast. I am your host, Joe Ferracci, along with...
co-host here, Cebron Walker.
What are we going to talk about today?
Let's get into it. Let's talk about people wasting their freaking money on bells and whistles.
Who does that?
I don't know. I mean, no, but look, we have an economy that's really rough right now. I mean, I have clients all over the country, almost every single one of them that I'm talking to. These are medical offices a lot, new patients, new customers, new people coming in, and the statistics are down. They're not coming in as fast as they used to be, and I'm having to have these conversations of how to improve their marketing stuff to get the numbers back up.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to get a lot of pushback for this. Okay, so I hear what you're saying. Here's the problem. When I go to a restaurant, these places are full. You hear recessionary this, inflation that, but yet, why are these department stores full? Why are these restaurants full? So, I mean, I get it.
It takes a while for people to get their head straight because they're still spending frivolously on these things, you know, new iPhones, a watch, cars they have to keep up with the Joneses next door, the house that's got the remodel, these kind of things that go on. So the restaurants are still full because there's a delay. People have a delay in reality hitting home that they're fucked. Their bank accounts, their credit cards, these things are maxing out right now.
Okay, so then ultimately, what's the real problem that is occurring? Is it really Donald Trump's tariffs? Is it really what's happening economically, or is it more so we have a society that we have more of a consumer-based society than a producing society?
We have a brainwashed consumer-based society. And I hate to say that for our viewers out there that like their stuff, right? But people have become driven by what they see on social media, and they see it on YouTube, and they see this and they see that. And the AI with the advertising, that's so, I would love to talk about that on another podcast, because the ability for companies to reach you and convince you to buy their product on every single platform based on your search or, you know, how you talk to your phone and this kind of thing is insane.
Okay, but consuming stimulates the economy. So what's so bad about consuming?
There's nothing wrong with consuming things you actually need, but there's everything wrong with the wrong mindset and not really having the financial education and control. I mean, talk about statistics, crazy statistics, like divorce is not caused by infidelity. Divorce is caused by finances, lack of ability to control finances. One or more partners have a total inability to control their spending.
Till death do you part.
Well, I don't know, but there's like a lot of divorces happening. I don't know what the stats are. I think a lot of people divorce. I think it's like half marriages end in divorce or something.
It might be getting pretty close to the statistics of small business failing.
Yeah. No, I was listening to a different podcast, and this guy went and wrote a book. Who actually, one of the Shark Tank guys. He went out.
Mr. Wonderful?
I think that's the guy. The guy has the watch collection. What's his name?
I love Mr. Wonderful, though.
Yeah. He went out and surveyed all these divorce lawyers in New York City and Boston, and like 200 different divorce lawyers. And across the boards, they said infidelity is not the reason people divorce. They can get over that. The reason people divorce is one or both of them have no control over spending money.
So what would you say? Okay, there's these guys online that are going around talking to, first off, asking if... how
do we get on to How do we get on to divorce? That wasn't even the point we actually started off talking about.
Okay, so here's the thing. I want to ask you this, though, because there's this guy on social media, and he's going around interviewing people, asking them if they're single, et cetera, et cetera. And for the ones that are single, then he's asking the question, what are you looking for in a potential spouse, and how much money would they have to make? Is there something wrong with the response being they've got to make six figures? Or I wouldn't date anyone who's making like 50,000, or I wouldn't even consider like marrying them. Like, at what point do we sort of navigate away from what someone is financially earning? Like, is that just part of society?
Well, okay. Now, to get totally off topic, when you're looking for a mate, when someone is looking for a mate, there's a great book on this, is Givers and Takers.
Okay.
And matchers. So, givers, of course, are the most wonderful people. They give more than they ever take. And they don't have any preconceived reasoning for giving. They're not giving with the intention to get. They just give. There are people in society that just are the wonderful people that give. They help, they volunteer, they're selfless, they donate, they do that kind of stuff. There's the other side of the coin, which are the people you want to stay away from, the takers, the people that, they want you to pay for dinner, they want you to buy them gifts, they want you to cover everything. They just take, they collect material things and they never give.
Okay, but is that, and I still want you to answer the question on whether answering that, like, as far as how much someone financially makes, should that be part of the conversation on whether that's a perfect fit?
No,
but okay, let's not forget that question. But what you just said right there, is that a characteristic that an entrepreneur should have, though, like being a taker?
No, not at all. And so let me get back. So there's the givers, and then there's the takers, and then there's the matchers. And matchers are like, I'll give you this. We keep the exchange sort of flows back and forth pretty even. And those guys are good. They keep the world going around. The givers always end up being the ones that amass incredible wealth that they don't even care about.
Aren't they the ones that are always taken advantage of, though?
Not they tend to feel that way because
to this?
No, because they tend to feel that way. Those givers are not truly givers because they complain about they give and they don't get back because they had an intention behind the giving to get. Okay. The true givers, it's in their DNA. They wouldn't even complain about never getting.
You would see a guy like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. They were givers?
They were givers.
They
were givers because in their intention from the very beginning was to create these things for society that took us forward. Steve Jobs gave us the iPhone as a new way of communicating everything the iPhone has given us.
So
Elon Musk is trying to get to Mars.
So we're not talking about giving in the sense that like giving gifts or I'm giving like financially. It could be ideas, it could be technology.
100% selfless. I mean, Steve Jobs died at 52 because of he just destroyed himself to create everything he created with Apple. Like he didn't live.
Wasn't that just obsessive compulsive? Like
totally obsessive compulsive. And I'm not saying he's the model for any of us to follow particularly, but I'm just saying he was obsessive compulsive. Yes, everything you want to say about that, but he was a giver. Elon Musk is a giver. He's trying to get rocket ships to Mars to get us have another planet that we could potentially live on, right? Like he's not focused on himself at all.
That's a whole other level of giving, though.
Yeah, well, that is a whole other level. We don't need to. Like, I'm just saying, and so the point, pulling it back, because we're not all going to be Elon Musk's and Steve Jobs. Pulling it back, you were talking about how when you're trying to find a mate, trying to find like, I'm not going to go out with this guy, or I'm not going to marry this guy unless or her if they don't make six figures. That's such wrong-minded.
Is that vain?
That is sort of vain, right? Because if you're trying to find someone that you're truly going to like live the rest of your life with, the conversations, first you need to test them. Like, on the dates you're going on in that first, whatever, month or 2 months or time period that you're developing the relationship is like, are they givers or takers or matchers? Right.
Okay.
And that was the point there. And then once you figure out where they are and they're not just trying to use you for money or something like that, and they're not just like, you need to develop that relationship. And, not that I'm qualified as a relationship creator or matchmaker, that is this going to develop? Because then you could be both making, on a job that makes $50,000. Okay. So, but between you two, you make $100,000 a year. But the vital thing in that developing that relationship and that union is together, are you going to make each other better and be able to wear the different hats in that relationship? Because she's going to have kids. She's going to have to be a mom. She's going to have to wear those different hats. And so are you going to be able to, like, is she going to support you to be like not around much because you're building a company or you're trying to get those raises and and going to get that salary you need? Like, are the hats going to jive? Like, it's not about like, well, if you don't make six figures, I'm not going to marry you.
Okay. But this is what I've heard. And I think it's come to this to a certain extent. Would you argue I mean, inevitably, is it a business arrangement?
It is a.
I mean, that's.
I'm telling you, marriage is 100% a business arrangement, and that might get a bunch of flack, but marriage is 100% a business arrangement. And if you don't think of it that way, you're fucked. Because I tell you, you go into that not thinking of it that way, and if it ends in
how
divorce,
can you not look at it that way? Especially for, and I didn't do this prior to getting married. I never signed
it's
I never created no
biggest
prenup.
financial decision you will ever make.
But why do people sign
Especially if you're
prenups?
Italian.
Oh God, yeah.
The wedding itself is going to be $100,000.
Well, all joking aside, my wife, I asked her this question. I said, listen, if we had met and I was, someone just working at Wendy's, not to, bring that job down. There's a time and place, right? You know, she said to me, this is after we were married. She goes, oh, absolutely, I would have. I'm like, bullshit.
No freaking way. I know, Christina.
I said, there's no way. You knew who I was. You knew where I came from. You knew what I had accomplished at, to that point. There's absolutely no way.
Absolutely no way.
But I mean, it still seems sort of like crude to be able to say it is a business arrangement. And I think more and more people are looking at it that way. And if you're a successful business owner, then and you want to be able to enhance your lifestyle, quality of life, and your businesses, you obviously have to have someone that can complement what you're already doing. Like you have to
100%.
align in perfect harmony to a certain extent.
Like it's such a big point of the hats you're going to wear, because if the woman if you're going to have kids and you're going to do those things, and she's going to have to be a mom and she's have to do those things. I'm not saying I don't mean to push buttons on, well, you have to iron and do laundry and all that shit, right? Because if you make plenty of money, then you can hire someone to do that stuff for you. But she's going to do that. Well, then you better be able to make a lot of money. And if you have to travel and be a salesman, or if you have to do those things or be working late, she better be willing to have that and not be upset by it, but actually support it. If you have an agreement, a business, and that is a business agreement. I mean, we all have our individual experiences. And I know, when I started my marriage, neither of us had a lot. And literally we wrote down, as we were starting our relationship, this is how much money together we have to make. It was almost like developing a contract.
I wouldn't say that's typical. Okay, I take a look at my own parents. I don't think that there was the extent of thought that there is today. As an example.
No.
I think today, more than ever before, it wasn't even something that I considered when I got married. Fortunately, our, beyond morals and values, we're aligned. But even political ideology. I almost feel like, not that you're sitting across the table from someone on a date saying, hey, are you a Democrat or are you Republican? But I feel like there has to be an alignment of political ideology nowadays. And maybe it wasn't like that 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
I would almost hate to say political. I'd say ideology is probably a word you could use, even though it has a little bit of interesting connotations these days.
Well, it contains many facets,
yes,
right?
But you
have to align, ideology, political ideology, maybe religious ideology. I mean,
you have to align with the things you believe in.
In a lot of ways.
And that has nothing to do with if you want Trump to be president or you want this person to be president. I don't think that's what you're talking about. I think what you're talking about is the things you feel are important, to be totally dramatic, capitalism versus communism. How do you think? Should you earn your living? Should you produce a valuable product that supports your lifestyle and society as a whole?
I have no idea how we ventured off into this, but I think this is, I'm enjoying the conversation. Here's the thing. Especially for the younger generation that is listening to this, in your opinion, should they get married at an early age, have kids, and be able to enjoy their children, family lifestyle? Or should they get married later on in life, focus on building their business, and then enjoy the fruits of their labor? There's a lot of different perspectives on this, right? I can tell you what my thoughts are, but I'm going to put you on the hot seat, and I want to hear what you have to say.
My parents had me when they were 20. So they were, and I've talked to them about their lifestyle back then. I mean, it was like bicycles. They didn't even have a car. They had no money. like we lived in apartments in different cities. Like I was just hanging around, like totally bizarre. But I feel that that's too early. It's adventurous, but it's too early.
So where's that happy medium?
I think that you have to figure out what you're doing, and that's your 20s. You got to figure out, am I an entrepreneur or am I going to be a salaried employee? What's the style of work I like? Because it is two different types of people. A lot of people want a job that's reliable, that maybe has some kind of retirement fund attached to it and benefits and medical benefits and these kinds of things. That's a very comfortable position. And most people find that the way to go. There are people that want to be an entrepreneur and realize that they want to have their own business. They want to have the freedom that comes with being an entrepreneur. Doesn't mean freedom to work less, because you tend to work more, to be honest. But it does give you the freedom to make your own decisions about that work, right? And so I think you should figure that out. I think into your late 20s, when you're getting there, you're at that groove is in. I think that's when marriage and then, kids, 30-ish, young 30s. I think that's realistic. I think too young. I hate to say it, but the kid is like, how do you take care of a kid when you can't even afford a babysitter, right? Like you're trying to establish having a home.
It's got to put strain on a relationship.
Incredible.
I didn't go through that experience, but
But your parents had kids young. Or
they did,
mom.
but I think, a different time, right? So
sort of same with mine.
I definitely feel like back when my parents got married, you were able to, especially my dad coming as an immigrant, you were able to, on a one-person salary, sustain a lifestyle.
Right.
I don't see that as a possibility nowadays. It's either one has this excessive salary, or has built a very successful business, successful entrepreneur, and or otherwise it almost feels like both spouses need to like be contributing like financially.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a different time.
Yeah. No, today I think that that would be the way to go.
But I'm a huge proponent of where, like I tell my own kids this, especially when I see my 15-year-old on the weekend just like laying around playing video games all day long going, I'll look at him, and I actually said this to him about a month ago. When did you earn the luxury of just being able to do this? Because he goes, man, today's just my chill day. I don't want to be doing anything. When did you earn that luxury to be able to like just do that? Dude, you haven't accomplished anything in life yet. Now is the time to grind and to be disciplined.
At 15, I think that's hilarious.
Oh yeah. I'm a huge, like my son's tennis coach is telling him, every once in a while you got to just take a break and be a kid. And I try not intervene in their conversations, but do I agree with that? No, I don't think so. Like, what do you mean enjoy being a kid? No, learn how to develop a discipline.
I think it's different for different generations though, because I grew up with parents that were so young that didn't have a clue, and like a babysitter was a volunteer, like it was a friend or literally the person. I mean, I was babysat by people that lived next door that like literally we were in an apartment in San Francisco and some lesbian next door to us babysat me. I don't even know if they knew the girl. It was just like, hey, can you be with our son for a few hours while we go to do something? I don't even know. Like they would tell me these stories that are like mind blowing to parents today. Right. But
there is something to be said about, I don't care whether you have the financial means or not. Let's say you do. There's definitely something to be said about being there for your children's upbringing, right? And not just passing them off to a babysitter, even if financially you can, right?
No, but I'm saying my parents had to figure out how to go make some money.
For sure.
And I was just there.
That's both extremes.
Totally.
Like, you either have to, or even if you don't, and if you have the financial wherewithal, I don't think that's something that you necessarily want to do. You want to be there for your children, their upbringing, definitely instill the morals and values, passing on through your wisdom. But you're talking about they didn't have the financial wherewithal. So in both cases, I would say that's not what you want to do. In case one where you don't have the financial wherewithal, well, don't have kids until you can.
Yeah.
And then when you do have the financial wherewithal, then listen, you need to balance and incorporate that as part of life and not just pass them on to be raised by a third party.
Totally. But back to your point about your 15-year-old that spends all day playing video games. I think we potentially, both of us, grew up a little differently. I grew up with parents
he doesn't always.
No,
do
I know.
that.
I know. I know, Mikey. So, but the point being, like, I grew up where I witnessed for my entire upbringing that my parents were having to kick ass to survive. Like, they were literally always on the move. They never relaxed because my childhood was them trying to get to somewhere. Like, we never owned a house until I was a teenager. We were in apartments and rentals all the way until I was a teenager. So it was a constant struggle, right?
Yeah.
And I think because I saw that and I was part of observing it, I knew that you had to have this struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by the age of 11, I was like out, raking leaves for the neighbors to make $5. And so I made money for my own Christmas gifts if I wanted to buy them, right? So it was a mindset I had from a young age to be productive, because that's what I saw. I just did what I saw. I don't know if that was similar for you and your upbringing, but I think some of our kids now, I mean, my kid, your kids, unfortunately, it's just a different time. They don't see that.
My kids are spoiled, man.
Yeah,
your kids are spoiled. Let's
they
be
don't
honest.
observe, and when they observe us, they see me on a laptop. They see me doing a job that looks, if you weren't looking at the details, you could say it looks like playing video games, right? You know what I mean?
Listen, my dad just gave me the look, and I knew that it was time to come this way.
I know, but you grew up. I know, but you grew up in a Italian traditional home, which was very different than a liberal American home that grew up from the hippie generation.
Should you be vilified for believing that one way is better than the other, or one way is more, correct? Like, I mean, because that happens in today's day and age.
And an experience that sort of molds you, and look where you've gotten to, look where I've gotten to. So you can't say one's better than the other, but there is something to be said about, understanding value of work and exchange for your leisure, your luxuries. And so the whole beginning of our conversation is like, today it's very materialistic, and people are like, I got to keep up with the neighbors, so I got to get the new car. I've got to get, the latest iPhone. I've got to have a watch or a pair of sneakers that looks the part, when you truly should have your attention on producing and creating value for society that then, makes it so these, not that luxuries are bad, but that
is there
you can afford them.
Is there a correlation between happiness and money? Not
at all.
I agree.
Happiness is...
I agree. At the same time,
I mean, there's a certain level.
There's a threshold. There's a prominent, I'm not going to name names because I actually respect the guy. There's a prominent businessman who said, if you're making less than $400,000 a year, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, I certainly, wouldn't be satisfied, but not, in the sense that maybe one would be thinking.
Yeah.
But I don't think that if someone's not earning at least, 400,000 plus, like if you're below that threshold, I don't think you should be ashamed. I don't think that defines what that person's happiness is. But there is definitely a threshold where you want to be able to provide the quality of life for family and have the experiences that, while we're here on this earth, right? And it does require
but you don't need
a threshold
to have
of money.
Totally. But you also don't need to be able to, you don't have to have the ability to take your kids on cruises or go to Italy. You can going to the park for a child, and this is my own experience, but going to the park, going to a nearby city that has some museum, those things are fine too. So you don't need to have crazy money, but certainly enough to even travel those distances and feed your family and all that stuff. I don't know exactly who said this. Maybe it's the Dalai Lama or something, but like happiness comes from a contentment, integrity, and like really understanding, like, I guess empathy, understanding other humans around you.
You know where I think happiness comes from?
Gratitude's another word.
Gratitude, sure. I think that ultimately you gain more traction on happiness the more productive you are, the more purpose you have in life.
Okay, I can agree with that.
I look at
the more value you've produced.
Totally. The less, I don't think happiness comes from consuming, right? So
it's short term. Like if you go buy a Rolex, I tell you, I mean, I'd love to go buy a Rolex. And I think that if you went and bought a Rolex, I think you could be happy for 48 hours. You could stare at that thing, dude, and it would make you happy for 48 hours.
I could be longer.
Maybe a week.
It would be
you could stare at a Rolex and be happy for a week. And a Rolex and a Porsche, you could probably 2 weeks.
I know it brings you happiness.
Yeah, it brings me happiness. But
Christmas wish list.
But those are short-lived, like dopamine hits of happiness. It's not ultimate, true happiness.
It's not ultimate, like permanent fulfillment, for sure. And I think that's what I'm trying to instill in my kids as well, right? Is move away. You're always going to consume. You're going to be a consumer in life, but dedicate most of your time producing. Like be more on that side than the consumer side.
And that leads right back to givers and takers. Be more of a giver than a taker. And if you can that in that balance, be more of a giver than a taker, you're set. That will accomplish happiness. And I'll tell you one thing that's interesting is when I find in a day, if I'm, to keep it simple, feeling down, feeling like, God, I'm stuck, or haven't closed a contract, or if I go do something that physically forces me to produce something, it immediately changes that sort of happiness. That, like, if I write a chapter of a book, or I write a blog post that'll help someone else, like, here's 5 tips to improve your marketing before Christmas or something. If I go, I need to outflow something of production, and I'll post that article on LinkedIn and get it posted and record a short video about it and then post that to social media. That changes everything. Man,
I'm gonna agree. And I'm not suggesting, like, I'm not gonna make any medical assessment here, but personally, I think, part of depression can be handled by just be more purposeful, be more productive. I know I'm going to get slack.
We're going to have to talk about that because diet and production.
Man, I'll tell you,
that's the ultimate solution.
The more you sit there and like just dwell on things, and be the complete opposite of in production mode, then it feels like that amplifies the depression. But I don't necessarily want to go there, but that's just my personal belief. But anyhow, I think we've gotten to a level of understanding and defining that ultimately everything that we said leads to this word happiness.
If you're working on relationships, find a giver. If you're and if you're working on happiness, be more of a giver than a taker. And it isn't about material things. And so it's certainly great to reward yourself with like a watch, or, hey, if you really kick some serious ass, a car, something like that. But those are rewards for production of valuable products that support whoever it is that you're working on, society in general, certain target audience. If you're a doctor, it's your patients. If you're a marketing guy, it's your clients. Those rewards are fantastic if the reward is equal to the production that got it for you.
If you had told me that the way to meet your potential spouse is now through like online dating, I mean, man, I thought that was the dumbest concept I'd ever heard as soon as it came out. But I mean, heck, I think more people are meeting that way now than ever before.
So many people that have met that way. It's crazy.
And it's become such a successful like social platform that obviously you got to adapt with the times, right? So, what I would say to all this, when it comes to finding the right spouse, an interview is okay. Just don't make it so formal.
Well, our conversation today, a little controversial, a little captivating, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I hope it's helped you for some ideas, maybe some relationship advice, money advice. Thanks for joining the 8th Gear podcast today. Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell to get our future episodes, and like and put a comment down there. See you next time.